All right, everyone. Thank you for hanging in there with me as we got set up for today. And as remember, we now have a vendor call out for all bookish vendors in the DMV area. Books and Bounty will be hosting its first bookish holiday market this December. All information and right now the vendor application is up on booksandbounty.com. We'll be sending out some direct invites and starting promo over the weekend. But for now, again, you can head to booksandbounty.com to learn more about our Ink and Inspiration event series that includes this holiday market, as well as our Pass the Plate open mic series. In booth registration is $35. But as remember, we have the traveling book nook. So if you need to display or sell your bookish products, books, and other items, but you aren't able to make it, you can display your items for display or sell for $35. And we also have the annual subscription, which is $125, and that includes up to 5 public events plus all Ink and Inspiration events. So you'll be able to enjoy engagement or sale opportunities with our open mics, the holiday market, as well as with any public events that Books and Bounty will be attending, depending on the curation for that event, up to 5 different events. Okay. As always, you are listening to the cool lo-fi sounds of Chill Hop Music. Chill Hop Music has a generous content creator licensing program. You can head on over to chillhopmusic.com to learn more and tell them that Books and Bounty sent you. All right, it's time for the proper show introductions, everyone. And glad to say that I am back in the She Suite after a long hiatus dealing with an insurance company. We'll talk more about that later. I digress. But on this season of Books and Bounty Live, we're talking shop and reading both fiction and nonfiction books about the business of reading and writing. You've just tuned into our Friday stream from the desk of Books and Bounty, where I host best-selling authors, industry insiders, and leaders in the publishing arts to discuss their pathway to success, and offer you tips and guidance on business strategy and how to hone your craft. Today, I'm excited to host Analysis the Poet, who is an enduring member of Red Emma's, a worker cooperative bookstore, cafe, and community event space located in the Northeast Baltimore neighborhood of Waverly. We'll discuss Red Emma's mission, anarchist roots, and why the cooperative model works best for their radical impact. We'll also highlight some of the best open mic spoken word events here and around the city, plus a preview of the Baltimore Book Festival, which is hosted right outside Red Emma's door. Watch, follow, and subscribe for access to the live chat experience, fun games and emotes, and exclusive content and giveaways from booksandbounty.com. As remember, we are Twitch affiliates, so if you are listening or watching on other platforms right now, I highly encourage you to hop on over to Twitch, find Books and Bounty, and give us a view there. You can also catch me live every Tuesday night at 9 Eastern Standard Time for live interviews with emerging storytellers, book reviews, and subscriber giveaways. Now, while we've discussed the business of self-publishing earlier in the season, following Analysis appearance today, where we'll be discussing more of the reading of books, I'll introduce you to a few publishers, including local self-publishing partnership, Silent Books Publishing, indie publishers Yellow Arrow Publishing and Mason Jar Press, as well as Legacy Lit Books, an imprint of the Hatchet Book Group. Stick around to discover unique pathways to publication and what it takes to produce and sell those books. And for this, the rest of the season lineup, traveling book nook engagement, and all things that you see here and on your screen, booksandbounty.com is your hub. Quick shout out to our partners, J&F Enterprises LLC, a local book distributor, Elevation Global Media Group with all of your marketing, promo, and communications needs as an independent and self-publishing author, and the Chill Spot at Notre Maison Connect, our location for our Past the Mic open mic series. All right. In addition to being a radically left bookseller and co-owner worker at Red Emma's, Analysis is a spoken word poet and minister. He studied public communications at the American University and holds a Master of Divinity degree from Howard University, one of the more prestigious programs in the nation, I might say. Analysis has featured at venues across New England, the Mid-Atlantic, and during the pandemic, the world, challenging listeners with art rooted in the call for liberation and oppression. He is the host of Red Emma's Mother Earth Poetry Vibe, a quarterly open mic, which we'll talk about more later, and the venue features the theme of peace, justice, poetry. He's a member of Simply Poetic Entertainment, as well as Restoration Village Arts, and is the author of the collection Somewhere Through the Haze. It's a short collection of poems on a variety of justice issues, as well as a poetry album a couple thousand years later. You can find out more about analysis by his book and cop the album at www.liberationinpoetry.com. Did I get it right?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Now, I start every interview with this question, and I will start it with you as well, because a poet is a storyteller, I think one of the oldest kind. And so, where did your passion for storytelling begin?
So, so that type of storytelling, that was related to preaching, that was related to homiletics, that was related to listening to the stories of elders who had been organizing and who were activists. That was something that I was intaking also. And so in the 90s, as you mentioned in the bio, I attended Howard University School of Divinity to receive my MDiv, my Master of Divinity. And so, homiletics, preaching, and the storytelling that is involved in preaching was even more ingrained to me, and I was able to sharpen skills and hone skills, and was very honored to win an award named for Vernon Johns. Many of your listeners may know Vernon Johns, one of the great names of the civil rights movement, even predating what King and others did. And I was honored to win a Vernon Johns Preaching Award. So that type of storytelling has been a part of my life for many years, and was in denominational ministry for many years. But the poetry part of it, my real entry into poetry, not the little bit of putting a toe in the coursework from high school, but my real entry into poetry did not come until I was later in life. I was in my 40s when I fell into it. And I was living in New Haven, Connecticut for a few years. And, you move to a new city and you want to go and meet people and
Build
find
community.
out something.
Yeah.
Build community, find out who's around and something to do. And I started going down to the open mics at the coffee houses and the venues, something I hadn't really done before, weirdly enough, in retrospect.
Uh-huh.
And I started listening, and the community, to use your word, was so strong there and so welcoming and inviting.
Yes.
And encouraging me, and I would just enjoy the whole atmosphere. And eventually they would say, get on the mic, do something. And of course I looked at them like, do what? Do a poem. What are you talking about? A poem, as if I have a poem. And I pulled out something I had on the computer, a little old brain teaser I wrote years ago in the office. And I did that on the mic, and of course was nervous, and you do something new like that.
Yep.
Even being a trained minister, this is a whole new atmosphere. So there's nerves and so forth. And I got on the mic and I did that, and they said, that's a poem. They enjoyed it. You should continue. You have to understand, you have to expand your mind in terms of what poetry is. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I continued just growing with that community. And before I had poems of my own, really, to come back to the mic with, decided I would take other people's poems, as the running joke is in the spoken word community, OPP, in this case, other people's poetry, as opposed to what else that might stand for. And, I take a Dunbar or Langston Hughes or somebody like that and try to do that on the mic to develop the mic skills, even while I was trying to write my own pieces.
That's a great tip of advice for folks starting out who want to get into spoken word and develop their stage presence and voice, even if you're shy about reading your own work first,
Very much so. I often encourage people to do just that, because it's not only enjoyable, but it pushes you to think of how can you take that poem from somebody else and how do you present it? How do you make it come alive? It's part of the thing about spoken word. It's one of the core elements of spoken word is how do you bring a piece to life, maybe more than other poetic settings. And so I would do that, and then eventually I began to have some of my own poems. And it just opened up a whole new door to storytelling, a whole new avenue of storytelling that, quite frankly, I was surprised I hadn't fallen into far earlier. And
It
I would tell that to
seems
people.
it seems
Go ahead.
quite natural considering your path.
It does. And that's one of the reasons why I was really surprised I hadn't gotten into it much earlier. And then folk would, of course, remind me that the fact that I came into it later in life means that I brought life experience to it and certain basis of knowledge to it, maybe that others did not necessarily have.
How so?
And I took that as a word.
Yeah. And speaking
especially given the fact that I concentrate on justice issues, human rights issues and that type of thing. And so, poetry became a natural meld to ministerial intentions and ideas and just, being a conscious person or trying to evolve ever as a more and more conscious person in the world. The idea of spoken word poetry and the reality that it was becoming in my life really became the natural outlet, the artistic outlet for things I was trying to say and do and live up to.
Now, you just were getting into how poetry fits in with your ministry work. And there has been always a sort of tension between politics and the pulpit. And for Black people, our separation is very narrow when it comes to how churches fit into political change and injustice. So how do you use poetry specifically in your ministry? Because the clip you sent me and the clips you guys see in the promo, social media promos and other things that I have circulating is actually a clip from a spoken word performance at a church. So tell me how that fits into not only your personal mission, but the work that you do.
So just by way of info on that video, the selling of souls, that actually is at a poetry venue.
Okay.
Here in Baltimore, a venue called the Poetry Party, which is one of the weekly venues here in Baltimore. I know you were mentioning earlier that we might dip into some of the area venues later, so that certainly is one of them. Hosted by a dear poet sister by the name of Keish the Lioness, and so that is on Wednesdays in Baltimore. But and by the way, anybody from this city will laugh at me being formal and trying to say Baltimore while we're on the air, because we just call it Baltimore.
Yeah, and that's what I say. Be yourself. But I do the same thing when I'm introducing myself. When I introduce myself to new people, I'm like, and I swear I almost roll my eyes when I have to say it. And I'm like, yes, I'm from Baltimore.
Baltimore.
But that's the only time they'll get it. They'll get it the first time that way, and that's it.
There's that Black Baltimore accent, we call it Baltimore, and then there's more of a white Baltimore accent, Chesapeake accent, really, in which you'll hear people talk about Baltimore. And so if you hear either of those things, you know what region you're standing in.
Definitely.
But, you talk about the relationship between church and politics, even before we get into poetry and politics. There's always been a relationship.
Yep.
Pro or con. We know enough about history to know a lot of the con. We know how religion was used to colonize and enslave. We know how religion has been used to dumb people down, to keep people away from organizing and action, etc. We don't have time on the podcast to go over all of that. I'm sure your listeners are well familiar. But you also have, and there always have been this, people of faith who have fought against the status quo, who have fought against oppression. And we know this from our history in this country as an African diaspora, right? We go back to people like Nat Turner and them who came from a spiritual basis, right? We name one, we can name them all. All right. So part of the revolts and the rebellions coming from the spiritual basis, we know the history of organizing this country involved people of faith, involved ministers. All right. So that while there were all too many and still are all too many ministers who really allow themselves to be part of the suppressive status quo, much of the civil rights movement came out of the church.
Yep.
And came out of Muslim communities and came out of just generally people of faith, organizing and activism. So, and we could talk about this around the world too. We don't have time to talk about the various leaders around the world and movements around the world, Latin America and Africa and elsewhere, Europe included, Asia, all these things that have come out of faith. So as far as the Black church is concerned, the Black church has a hell of a lot of problems. Makes me so damn mad, probably the majority of the time, to be honest. But the potential of the church generally, the potential of the Black church in particular, is still there. So it is incumbent upon us who, since you say I could speak freely, those of us who still fuck with the church in some way, shape, or form. It is incumbent upon us to make sure that we continue to push it, to be its to finally reach its revolutionary potential. It's still a long way from that, but we wanted to reach that potential. How does poetry fit into that? For me, writing from that standpoint, I think imbues my poetry with the purpose that I wanted to have in terms of being able to take things that people of certain faith backgrounds would know, certain scriptures, certain ideas, what have you, and to present them poetically and make folk think about things maybe in a way they had not before. Because the arts do that generally, right?
Yep.
You know that.
Yes, they do.
It is the arts will the arts will make you think about something.
Yep.
We need the facts and figures. We need the narratives and the histories and the essays and the exposés and the articles. All of those are crucially important. I know that we will be talking about the bookstore shortly and our purpose in terms of making sure people have that information. But people have to have the arts also, because maybe that poem, maybe that song, maybe that play or movie will open your eyes to a particular issue in ways that just the facts and just the figures did not open your eyes to. So that's certainly true in poetry. I have
it moves people.
Seen that with my poetry. Yeah, I've seen that with my poetry, and so what I try to do is, even as a person of faith, just to put the coda on that piece of it, is to challenge other people of faith and challenge people of no particular faith tradition to keep our hands on the plow, as the old folk used to say, in terms of the struggle, capital S, in terms of justice issues, and to offer poetry as a way to be encouraged to do that, to see things in a different way, and then to be encouraged to continue on in the ways that we can.
Now, before we switch over to Red Emma's, because I think that is a good segue, but I wanted to put on my publishing professional hat. I was doing some research for the show today. I realized that Somewhere Through the Haze, your poetry collection, is a self-published collection, and you use the platform Lulu. Can you tell, as many of our audience members and the folks that I bring on the show are also indie authors and self-publishing authors, can you tell us a little bit more about that platform and why you chose that route?
Yes, I did that. I thought that was the quickest ingress into having something out there in print. Even before that, I just used to go up to Office Depot and run it off. Right. And just move it out of pocket, out of hand, move it out of here at Red Emma's. And I still largely just move it out of pocket in terms of when I'm performing at a particular location. Certainly, I will have them available there. We sell, I'm very blessed to say, very honored to say we sell quite a few from here in Red Emma's. my colleagues and I have a running little joke, a running little chuckle among ourselves, in that Somewhere Through the Haze is the best-selling poetry book in Red Emma's history.
There you go.
But that might have something.
Oh, excuse me.
It is, but it might have a little bit of something to do with the fact that its author works at Red Emma's. I mean,
hey, look, put it on the back, put it on the jacket cover. That's what I say. Look, it is an accolade worth promoting to be a bestseller at Red Emma's. Speaking of which, somewhere go ahead.
No, I definitely do appreciate it, and in the future, when I build a larger collection, it's a small collection. I think a powerful one, but a small one. But when I put together a new collection, a larger collection, so forth, I will probably re-examine going through a publishing house and getting it distributed through quote unquote normal means, and using as a publisher, somebody in the publishing industry knows what I'm talking about.
Well, we have
so that will probably happen at a later time.
We'll talk about some resources around, because I know there's a wonderful, it's actually a pretty good, healthy ecosystem of independent publishing regionally here. I have a few of them, some of the independent publishers and self-publishing collectives coming on the show soon after your interview in a couple of weeks. And you note that in Somewhere Through the Haze, that not just as being a bestseller, but the impact that it's bringing to those who read it as well, and that you're going to challenge folks who read it to take a real look at the oppression in society and ask themselves, what will they do about it? I think Red Emma's challenges its customers, the community, and others who readers and others who patronize the store to do the same. It's not just pick up a book, read it. It's pick up a book, read it, take action from it, learn from it, come back and discuss it at the bookshop with others who want to take action around it as well. And it is so uniquely organized in a way to sort of make that pipeline from the reader to action in the community. And so how did you, and I want to know, like, how did you make that connection? Obviously, you guys are very mission aligned, but where did that story for you and Red Emma's begin?
Red Emma's Bookstore Coffee House is a project that is almost 21 years old. It'll be 21 in November. And it started in a little small space in downtown Baltimore, the corner of St. Paul and Madison, for those of your listeners who know Baltimore well. And I'll give you some of the background of the store, and that'll lead you into my connection with it, how I came across it. Before Red Emma's, there was a bookstore in the Fells Point neighborhood of Baltimore called Black Planet, a radical left bookstore there that unfortunately closed, but some of the people and some of the energy of that project found its way into Red Emma's. And so in 2004, there was a small group of folks that said that we need to establish a space that is going to do a few different things. Number one, it's going to be an info shop, if you want to use that term, an unapologetically radical left info shop. Of course, we can come back to what radical left means for listeners, but they wanted to provide a location that is going to have the books, the information, the author talks and speakers, and all of that you will not find in mainstream bookstores, okay? You will not find in mainstream media, et cetera. And so it's important for that group of folk to establish that and provide a comfortable space. You know, we all need, a little cafe to hole up in and that type of thing. And so as they approached it, they said, why can't we have both of those things? So it's a small little bistro size thing at first, with a fascinating library and there's a salient point about Red Emmons, and I'll come back to that in a minute. But how did I come across it? I found it in 2005, so about a year after it started. And I'm that person, and especially this way in previous work incarnations where I used to travel a lot. Part of my travel planning is where's my little Wi-Fi? Where's my cafe that I'm going to hole up in and drink my fair trade or direct trade coffee and get some work done. You can't stay in the convention center or the meeting hall all the time. You got to get outside those walls.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to myself, I need somewhere from back home also. I was living in Cleveland at the time when I was working in the United Church of Christ National Office. But I said, I need somewhere back in Baltimore also. So when I'm visiting home or in the DC office or that type of thing, that I have somewhere to hole up in. And so I was just surfing around. There's a site that's now defunct that used to list Wi-Fi cafes and free Wi-Fi and that type of thing. This is back in the day when not all Wi-Fi was free at a location. But I was surfing through and it said Red Emmons Bookstore Coffee House. I said, oh, that sounds quirky and off-brand enough. I wonder what that's about. And so next time I was in Baltimore, I visited it, and I just absolutely was taken by the book selection.
Yes.
And things that you would not see in Barnes and Nobles and Borders and those types of things back in those days. And so between the selection and the people there that I met, both those that operated the project and those that would just be part of the community. And we used to sit around these little small tables. And it was so crowded and so packed, we had to pass our power cord to each other. Hey, plug me in down there, will you? And the whole
you still
ethos,
like that.
Yeah. Some places still are. And just the whole ethos of the location and the store and the project, I was just really taken by it and so enjoyed it that anytime I was back home from Ohio or subsequently Connecticut, I would spend hours in there. Now, coming back to that salient point about the project, as I discovered after I began to frequent there and talk with the folk, is that from its beginning, Red Emmons has been a worker collective. Sometimes you'll hear the term worker cooperative. What does that mean? That means that everybody on the team is either an actual owner of the project or is in a position to move into ownership after a period of time. So from its very beginning, the purpose of Red Emmons, in addition to being a radical left info shop, was to demonstrate a model that was more equitable in its labor structure, to demonstrate a model that was not based on usual top-down capitalist society where you have a CEO making hella money at the top and some upper-level managers making money, and you have
by the time you get down to the folks at the bottom, it's no money left.
Exactly. And the objective was always to be different than that. And part of the reason for that is that when you examine some of the political philosophies that go into Red Emmons, I've used the term radical left. That covers a spectrum of things, a spectrum of political ideologies. It is very staunchly and safe to say the Red Emmons is left of what we know, what I call the duopoly, what many call the duopoly. This Republican-Democrat binary, both sides of which, in our analysis and in our view of it, serve capitalism in different ways, perhaps with little different subtleties, if you will, but both serve a traditional capitalist agenda, as opposed to serving the grassroots people as it should. And so when you look at Marxist political ideology, when you look at anarchist political ideology, and you see ways and movements that are attempting to restructure society in a more equitable way. One of the things that has come out of that, and this goes back decades, of course, is the idea of the worker collective, worker cooperative. Mm-hmm. And there are many across the country and across the world. Most are very small. You may only be talking about 5 or 6 people. Indeed, Red Emma started with about 6 or 7 folk. It was a labor of love for many years. I guess we'll talk business later, but I mean, it's a labor of love, no profit being made really until it grew into profitable business. But you see around the country various worker collectives, and it could be anything. I mean, right here in Baltimore, we have a bicycle shop that's a collective. We have other restaurants that are a collective, so forth. Mm-hmm. The largest, if I'm not mistaken, the largest collective still operative in the world is over in Spain, in Mondragon. So you see larger factory work sites and companies that have restructured themselves to be collectives. So we have everything in between. You know, Red Emma's being between owners and those in position to move into ownership. The fact that we are in the upper teens in terms of number of staff makes us probably one of the larger worker collectives in the country, because again, most are very small.
I would agree.
But that's a key point, and it's a very important point to understand about Red Emma. So you go to our website or see.
Yeah, I was going to say, not just one of the larger ones, but one of the long-standing as well. You guys,
yes, because it's not easy. It ain't easy.
It's not easy.
But if you go to our website.
Let's see. Ken, I lost your volume. Let's see. I lost you there. Analysis. Let me see. You're still off mute. What just happened there? Let's see. If you could give me a test 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna cycle through something really quick. Could I get that test 1 through 3 one more time? Check on one thing. And then I might have you come in and come back out. I'm not sure. Make sure that's not on mute. No. Check volume. You're there. Let's see. Let me try it again. I press unmute on the second camera. Nope. Yeah, it's not coming through on either of them. I'm gonna have you leave and come back out. I know I had some interference and then you cut out. So let's try to, if you want to sign back in, let's try that. All right, everyone. In the meantime, while Ken is trying to get back into the stream, I just want to say thank you for bearing with us. As this is again a live interview every Friday and Tuesday night, and Lord and behold, technology can be the bane of my existence when it does not work correctly. And the thing is, I have my extra output set up and it has not, so I want to make sure it's not on my side, and it might be on Analysis's side. Just to recap the beginning of the interview, we discuss analysis entryway into storytelling. And now we are discussing Red Emma's history and how in their mission. So let me change.
Okay.
There we go. I can hear you.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Let's see. And I think I can see you moving again.
Okay, great.
So,
Great.
because we had frozen again, but
Okay.
cool. So we're in on that device. Sorry for all the tech. I don't know what's going on with this on my end or not, but I appreciate you and your listeners.
Yeah, they understand. And many of our listeners are also streamers as well, especially those who view in our Twitch community. So they definitely have the empathy when it comes to live interviews. A little brief story about being a beginning streamer. My first interview that I ever went live with, I was muted the entire time, and we had to redo the entire interview. Yes. Oh Lord, the beginners. The issue with beginning the stream and everything. But I had a gracious Stefan Folks. I don't know if you know of him. He's a local author. He was my first ever interview on Books and Bounty Live, and we had to redo it again, and he was down with it, and it was still a great conversation and organic and fun. So again, everyone, thanks for bearing with us, and same to you, Analysis.
I feel you. I feel you. I think we all have those stories of some tech crash and burn. That certainly during the pandemic, I had some tech crashes and burns before figuring things out. So I feel you on that.
All right, before you left, we were just getting into Red Emma's roots, but also we were leading into the present right now. And I wanted to know about how they moved from downtown into Waverly, which I think is just a mini little literary hub. You guys are in such good company with Normals, Urban Reads, The Book Thing. The home of Zora's Den is right down the street from you all. So how did Red Emma's make its way from downtown to Waverly, and why Waverly?
So as I mentioned, the first location, as you say, it was downtown, a very small location. And before we move into that, I think when we cut off, I was about to read for your listeners something from the website, and everybody can go to redemmas.org. Go to redemmas.org, go to the About tab, and you'll see kind of a story of the history and philosophy. And there's a lot in there that I think folk will find interesting. But right at the beginning, you're going to see a phrase that says, dedicated to putting principles of solidarity and sustainability into practice in a democratic workplace. And so I just wanted to read that because I think that succinctly sums up what I was trying to say in further detail. And that's always been part of the raison d'etre of Red Emma's. And yes, it did start at a small location. And in 2013, they were able to move to a larger one-floor space at the corner of North and Maryland, again, for your listeners that know Baltimore. Yep. And real interesting space, and just in terms of aesthetics and the way it was laid out, and there were a lot of things that we liked about that space. And I say, you'll hear me say them sometimes, depending on what year we're talking about, or we. I actually joined the team in 2015. I had moved back to Baltimore in 2012, and they couldn't get me out anyway. So actually was privileged to join the staff in 2015. So, but in 2013, as I said, moved to that one-floor space at North and Maryland. A lot of things that we liked about that location, in terms of where it was, in terms of the feel, in terms of the aesthetic, in terms of being a place where the community could come and feel a part of just that community, even if perhaps they didn't always have the most money to be able to spend on books or food. We developed something called the Pay It Forward system, where perhaps if a customer had the wherewithal to buy a meal or a drink for someone less fortunate, they can do that. And in our current location, you can do the same thing, where you can purchase a meal or a drink for somebody. That magnet will be on the board. That magnet will tell somebody less fortunate that they are able to come and get something to eat or get something to drink. And so
I would say
that
announce, I want to stop you right there about the Pay It Forward program. One thing I love about the way Red Emma's does it with the magnets, and this is why I always try, if I can at the time, buy, if I'm buying a chai, I'll try to get someone else a chai, is that it preserves the dignity of the person in need. There's not a situation where they have to say, hey, I need to take advantage of the paying forward or ask for that kind of help. Because sometimes that can be a barrier, asking for food and that sort of basic necessity. They simply have to take the magnet, present it to the co-owner worker at the cafe and interact like a normal patron. So I just wanted to point that out to everyone, that it's something that I've really I noted as a difference between some of the other. They all have the same rooted positive goals behind it, but I really like the way you guys implemented that program.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And so a lot of things we liked about that space, a lot of things that became very challenging, that made it prohibitive, and that made us eventually want to move into a larger space. Sometimes we talk about it more, sometimes we talk about it less. But there are some things that spilled into the space that are a challenge to maintaining a business.
Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit. Some of the challenges you guys have faced, because again, this season we're talking about the business of writing and reading, and Emma sort of floats between both of those spaces, but definitely the business of reading. Tell me how some of those challenges you guys have faced and how you've overcome them.
Well, there are a number of things that can be said about that. Let's footnote the industry in general, the industries that we are in terms of being a restaurant and being a bookstore. We can come back to talk about some of the economics of that. But in terms of our locational journey, when you are a restaurant, you have certain health code standards that have to be maintained. And so when you see sometimes substances being brought into the space, or where there's some challenging situations into the space, I think one of the strengths of Red Emma's and other independent bookstores that are in similar situation is that, we're not the Borders or the Barnes and Noble out in the mall in the higher income area, so forth.
Y'all in the hood, y'all in the community, y'all right there with the people.
Which is important in a number of ways.
Yes.
Which we want to be a benefit in a number of ways, and it's part of our ethos or part of our operational mode to, again, things like the pay forward system, or being able to come in and get out the heat for a second and get some water and so forth and so on. Because we want to be with the community and not just another gentrifying business, right? That's a fine line. That's an amorphous line, depending on how you look at gentrification. That's another conversation. That's probably another podcast for those that can speak on it better than I can. But part of the intent of the project is to be with the community in ways that we can. And it's so appreciated by so much of the community. It was in North Avenue. It still is now where we are. It only takes, though, a small percentage of things that just cannot be sustained in a space, in a restaurant, in a public space where you're trying to maintain safety. It only takes a small amount of things to make the situation very, very challenged. And where we were, in some ways, was the corner. Many of your listeners will know what I mean when I say that. And it was a challenging situation. So we looked at how we could still fulfill our mission, but do so in a way that we weren't on our way to having to close doors. And when we moved in 2018 to Cathedral and Preston Street, for those of you that know the area, it's in the Arts District. It's across the street from the Symphony Hall and down the street from the Opera House and what have you. We moved into a space that actually used to be Ethel Ennis's Jazz Club. It used to be a spot called Ethel's Place, as well as other restaurants. And those businesses had folded, unfortunately. But we wanted to take advantage of what we thought was a very lovely space, a 2-floor space, had a nice, what we called the Sky Bar in the back. And we knew we were moving into a higher rent district. And we said, okay, we know that. And we know we'll be in the red for a minute. Let's tap some of this Arts District traffic and stay steady and climb into the black doing that. And that was a really, really nice idea before the quarantine hit.
Man, and y'all moved right before it happened. Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
And you already know what happened during the quarantine period. And so many businesses were struggling and did not make it through. And we had to relook at things and figure out how we were going to adjust to make it through. Mm-hmm. And long story short, the decision came that we just had to stop renting and purchase. We need to get out of a rental situation where we would be subject to rent hikes and there's already an income freeze and so forth. We said, let's make a stand on owning instead of renting. So we looked around, and the space that in Waverly, it's actually a 2-building space. These are 2 buildings that we had to purchase, okay. Yep. Renovate. We opened here in 2022, and we said we were going to make a stand on owning. Does it mean that we are out of the woods yet? No, in terms of paying down on loans and that type of thing. Mm-hmm. But we said we're going to sink or swim on owning instead of renting. And really, to a person, everybody that I talked to just nods their head in agreement in terms of that decision. It allows us to make a commitment to the community. Mm-hmm. There's so many things that we like about that situation, even in the midst of the ongoing, challenge financially to do it. And so maybe I should just circle back to that thing that we pinned in terms of the industries that we're in. Yeah. All of this takes place in the context of our being in 2 industries which have a low profit margin, right? Mm-hmm. Restaurant industry, bookstore industry. Yeah. Those are not high profit margin industries. So it takes a lot of foot traffic, plenty traffic to be able to make money in both of those industries. So when you ask and when other folks ask, how we doing? I always say, and I'm sure other bookstore listeners who may be listening to the podcast and mm-hmm. bookstore owners and workers will identify with this. Certainly restaurant workers will identify with this. We live in a glass half empty, half full context. Okay. There is always the challenge again of having enough traffic to make a profit margin. We don't have to talk about what the restaurant industry is. We know the challenges of making that work. There's been a lot of conversation over the years in terms of independent bookstores. Did they almost die out some years ago? Are they on their way back? You've seen a number of articles in recent years in terms of some of the resurgence of independent bookstores. And there's so many fantastic indie stores around the country that give you hope. Yes. That sustain hope.
I think that's a good way to put it. Yes.
And so, and you know this area well. So You've already named some of those bookstores here in Baltimore. You know of those bookstores in DC and elsewhere, and so that's very good. That's very good. When you look at Red Emma's viability, we always have to do better. We're always climbing to, again, increase that traffic and increase that profit margin. But there are signs that we are doing something that people value, right? That we are doing the right thing. You'll hear a little bit of noise in the background.
That's okay.
Colleagues are opening some of our doors and everything. For instance, I'll give you this as an example. If you look at the summer period, so we have a lot of folk affiliated with the colleges, with the universities that support Red Emma's, which is a wonderful thing. We are close to a number of universities. There are plenty of people, faculty, staff, and student that call Red Emma's their coffee shop home, their restaurant home. Right? So as you can imagine, very often over the years, that has meant a summer downturn, a summer doldrum, if you will, between the semesters. But what's very interesting, if you look at book sales and bookstore operation this year, is that we have had one of our better summers that we've ever had in terms of between the semesters, right? So that's a good sign, and that certainly gives us hope, or what word do I want to use? Encouragement or acknowledgement that we are providing something that is needed for the community, all right? And the fact that we still have had that type of bookstore support in between the semesters, and of course now folk are coming back in town for the school semester, so we look forward to that upturn. So, and I'm pulling different examples and different things to look at, but yeah, running a bookstore restaurant, either of those things, but certainly when you combine them, running a bookstore restaurant is always a glass half empty, half full situation. We're very encouraged that, and I think you mentioned it earlier, we're almost 21 years old now. So we must be doing something right. Must be providing a service that is necessary for the community. I know I went all over the place with that. You tell me if I am.
No, I think that was good. And I think that was good because you talk about not just the progression of Red Emma's and how you got to Waverly, but also the business of reading, the business of selling books, how it is an act of love. It is an act of passion and compassion. You don't get into this business to make money. You get into this business to impact, cultural change, to make art, to enlighten, to inspire hope, and all of those things that you mentioned. And and speaking of some of the challenges of big bookstores, and particularly Red Emma's, I invite the community to help with those challenges by not just buying books. Red Emma's host a series of wonderfully intriguing, impactful, not just author panels and sessions, but other events like the Baltimore Book Festival, which is hosted right outside its door. So let's talk a little bit of how the community can, wrap its arms around Emma's and give some more support about some of those events. Give us the rundown of that curriculum, because goodness gracious, it is a lovely curated space. Let me just tell you guys, please look at redemmas.org. If you're in town visiting and you're a bookish person, I highly recommend you making a day of the Waverly area. If you're in for Baltimore Book Festival, this 13th and the 14th, Books and Bounty will be there. A couple of the authors that we've recently had on the show, such as Dana A. Williams, will be there. So let's talk a little bit more about the event space and how customers can support Red Emma's outside of just reading.
So I'm so glad you brought that up, because there are many things that happen here. And let's talk about the events. You just noted them. I had a supporter tell me last year, the year before last, that our speaker lineup is better than that of most colleges.
Yes, it is. I would agree.
And
I would hands down agree.
I appreciate that. And it's something that we are very fortunate to have, that world-class authors bringing conscious, critical analysis, bringing important information, important material that they want to come to Red Emma's. And in case anybody out there is wondering, you've probably talked about this in other episodes, speakers that come to bookstores, they ain't making goo gobs of money off of that. They're not rolling in dough. All right. You don't have publishing houses giving them, plenty of money to fly around the country, drive around the country, and do author talks. Very often, it is very challenging for them to be able to move to different locations and do an author talk. So it is very much appreciated anytime an author wants to come to a bookstore to do a talk. And certainly those that come to us are, as we say, world class. You have many people that will say, their dream was to launch a book at Red Emma's, or to get to Red Emma's as a part of their book tour. And we've already discussed what type of information is here at Red Emma's. So coming to an event talk, coming to a number of talks is a fantastic way to, again, push one's mind and to get information that you're not going to get from the corporate media, that you're not going to get at the average mainstream bookstore talk. You may not even get it sufficiently on campus. So getting to Red Emma's events is something that I encourage always. You can see all of the events on the website, on the events page, on redemmas.org. And that's one thing. But in addition to the author talks themselves, there are organizing meetings that happen. Red Emma's is seen as a space where labor organizers and groups organizing against the carceral state and police brutality, so forth and so on. This is seen as a space where folk can come and meet and touch base, in addition to where our main talks are held, which is in the cafe. We have a space that I'm sitting in right now called the Baltimore Free School Classroom. This is where you can come and teach a workshop to the community, where an organizing meeting might happen. Perhaps your RAD org wants to have staff meeting here for a day and have us cater staff meeting. This is a space where all kinds of things can happen. It's just a kind of a real different look. We have posters of some of our past events. On the other side of the wall, we have the Celebrate People's History series poster. We have a projector and what have you. So this is an opportunity for folk to utilize the space to organize or to teach a workshop that's going to advance the community. You mentioned in the bio that I host a poetry event here, and I do. It's quarterly, the first Saturdays of February, May, August, and November. It's called Red Emma's Mother Earth Poetry Vibe. Red Emma's Mother Earth Poetry Vibe. The term Mother Earth, the name comes from an anarchist publication, an anarchist periodical that Emma Goldman and Alexander Berkman published in the early part of the 20th century. I think a lot of folk may think it was just being out with Mother Nature and what have you, which is important. And when you come to Red Emma's, you're going to get a lot of info on environmental justice and combating the climate crisis and combating environmental racism. But the name of my poetry venue is actually taken from an anarchist periodical. And the collective, well before I was on the team, the collective approached me in terms of establishing a greater poetry presence. And so I teamed with them to begin the Vibe in 2012. The first installment was in December of 2012. And except for times when we have been moving from one location to another, we've been rolling since then. Even during the quarantine, we went online. And I'm very honored to say that some of the most stellar poets you could ever want to hear have featured for me at the Vibe. Our theme is peace, justice, poetry. So That's your justice, your consciousness, your social political, your survival, that type of thing. And yeah, we have had some absolutely fantastic nights of poetry. So these are the types of things that happen at Red Emma's, and folks should really just try to get here and follow the events online. It really is worth spending some time here. Come and get something to eat. I should say something about the cuisine and the restaurant side. For those of us who are vegan in our diet, who are plant-based, we're always looking for a place where we can safely eat and enjoyably eat. And we have what I would describe as a vegan Middle Eastern and vegan Americana menu. And it has gotten rave reviews on everything from the falafel to the various soup and sandwich specials. The desserts are to die for. My colleagues, as old folk used to say, they put the foot in it.
Yes.
All right.
Now, this is coming from someone who's not vegan. I say I have enjoyed plenty of meal at Red Emma's, and my fella doesn't drink dairy products, milk, and so he gets oat milk and everything. I am a frequent chai latte drinker. I always have one around the desk. I have one now. And I always say when I use it with oat milk, it tastes too much like the earth. No. Red Emma's vegan chai latte is absolutely delicious. And so I just want to make that note there. Their food is quite yummy.
We appreciate hearing that. There's so many things. Folk tell me, I'll ask them in the bookstore, what you have to eat, and they'll just rain down compliments. I can't even keep them all in my head to tell my colleagues. I had one gentleman say that we had the best falafel that he's had outside of Africa. And so we just really appreciate the fact that folk can come and enjoy food. I should say, and I almost didn't mention it because for us, it's so automatically a part of who we are and our ethos. You hear me using various pronouns. It almost should go without saying, as the expression goes, that Red Emma's is queer as fuck in terms of this being more than just safe space, but in terms of, if you want to use the word celebratory space for all those in terms of how folk identify in terms of gender and sexuality and what have you. So, we're very intentional about that, not only in terms of just the general atmosphere of the space and the welcoming of the space, but also having what many have called the best queer and trans selection of books that they have seen. And so we definitely want to encourage that and for folk to be able to know that they have a safe house at Red Emma's in terms of that. I think this has become a safe house for many people in terms of gender, in terms of radical left politics, where you can sit and read and discuss things and learn without thinking that you're the only one in the room. And that's what we want to continue to be.
And Analysis, if you have a bit more time, we can continue this discussion because I know you wanted to actually show the viewers a little bit of Red Emma's. Do you want to switch over to the other camera now? All right. And while you're doing that, once you get set up and showing us around the store, I'm going to start our rapid fire session, which is a series of quick answer questions. So I think we can get that done while you're walking around. And then towards the end, I just want to plug the Baltimore Book Festival, which is sponsored. One of the stages is sponsored by Red Emma's. It's hosted right outside of their door in the Waverly neighborhood between 30th and 32nd Streets. And again, it's September 13th to 14th. So we'll talk a little bit more about the schedule and lineup as we close out the show. But for now, we're gonna switch over to some different cameras.
And I'm hoping that I can flip my phone's camera. I'm hoping that the app is going to let me do that, but let me just test some things.
It should be right when you sign in, it should ask you which camera you want to use, especially if you're using an iPhone.
Right. Okay, cool. So let me get in on this one.
Okay, let's see. Put you, and I'm gonna mute your computer so that it doesn't echo. So if you wanna make sure your mic is on the phone.
It should be.
Okay. Oop. All right, I think we can just do a test 1, 2, 3.
Mic check, test.
All right, sounds good.
1, 2, 3. All right, excellent. Well, as I mentioned earlier, where I'm sitting is what we call the Baltimore Free School Classroom. So again, this is where you might come to teach a workshop, where organizing meetings may happen. You can see that we set up a nice atmosphere of past event posters to celebrate people's history series, which will give you snippets of Rad Left history with the cool artwork. We have some of the various radical left leaders in portrait form up there for you. A whiteboard for you to use. We have a screen in terms of your audio visual. So I really do hope that people come and think about what you can do here. And when you go to, as I move upstairs, when you go to the bottom of the homepage, go to the bottom of redemmas.org, and you'll be able to click on a form to fill out a doc for space usage. If you want to use the space for a particular thing, you can go to the website and actually propose that and be in communication with us. We make sure that the free school classroom is on a sliding scale, so it's not going to be expensive. We're now upstairs in the main cafe space, and I will keep walking forward so that you get a better view. I want to show you the original Red Emma sign. This was the original outdoor sign that was at 800 St. Paul Street here in Baltimore. We have kept the sign in all of our locations, and we have brought it inside to this location. So we think that we provided a comfortable atmosphere for you to just come, get some work done, have a lunch meeting, have a dinner meeting, enjoy yourself. We always have an art exhibit going on. We have an artist every month that will install an exhibit, and we do kind of an artist reception. And I have the opportunity of talking with the artist. Usually it'll be me talking with the artist. So that's something to come and enjoy and look at. We have a bar. I think a lot of people don't realize that, but you
Talk
mentioned
about
it
it.
earlier, Stephanie. So we do want to remind folk
Yes.
that in addition to our menu, we do have a bar here. So it's a place that, again, people can come and relax and enjoy themselves. We're going to move into the bookstore, and I have to show you this artwork that I love. When I am hosting events, I ask people to take a look at what I call the Magic Books portal. This artwork was created by Red Emma's colleague, Nia Hunter, who's a fantastic artist. But I guess one of the things that I didn't talk about in terms of what happens here and what I do here is that I also am the primary event MC. So I have the fun job of actually hosting on the night of a particular event, hosting our speakers, listening to all of the fantastic information that they provide. And it really is, it does my soul very good to to really hear how much our authors enjoy coming here, and sometimes turn out as higher, sometimes turn out as lower. Sometimes it's a crapshoot in terms of how many folk will actually show up, but almost invariably, our authors really appreciate the opportunity to come and speak at Red Emma's. And I just, again, I'm very fortunate to be there on most of those nights where I can gain so much information that they are providing, and when I can see the joy. What I'm showing to you is just some snippets of the events. You can actually see the full event details on the website. If you go to redemmas.org, again, go to the events tab, and you will see plenty of things. So the bookstore itself is 2 floors, about 13,500 volumes. All right. So I think that if you come to Red Emma's, you have a good chance of finding a book that you will enjoy. All right. Or 8 or 15 or so. The word I hear often used as folk walk through the doors for the first time is overwhelmed, in a good sense of that word. And that is what we want it to be, a positive, amazing experience where people will be able to see a bookstore unlike they have before. And even just taking a quick look at the sections, we don't even have time to talk in detail about all of the sections, but you understand just by looking at this that you're going to find some things that you won't find in other stores. You're going to find a whole section, for instance, on the carceral state in terms of what police and prisons do in the society, and how we can push back against that. You're going to find a whole section on anarchism. You're going to, as I mentioned, find a dynamic queer and trans section, these types of things. You're going to find zines, some of which are free, some of which are low cost. You're going to find some very dynamic writing in terms of Baltimore and the Maryland area. You're going to find all kinds of coffee table books on various subjects. All right. And I know I'm walking through very quickly because time is against us, but I'm just going to go upstairs.
All right. And while you're walking upstairs, I'm going to start our rapid fire questions.
It's funny because I talk to a couple of folk every week who are familiar with the downstairs of the bookstore and never realized that there's a whole second floor. And I always say, hey, the whole second half of the world is upstairs, including, see, I like that. See how poetry is the very first island you come to? That's something that I personally like. But you have everything from literary criticism and literary nonfiction to, of course, your general fiction and sci-fi, area studies, right, in terms of world regions, philosophy, religion and theo, a deep, deep history and bio and memoir section. But we even have things such as the plant-based cookbooks, all right? So it doesn't always have to be heavy theory in terms of what you come and get, all right? You can get a variety of things. We have some overstock and remainder books that are marked down in price. We have some used books as well.
Used books, yeah.
Some DIY things.
I always make sure to take a look at the used book section.
This fun little children's section right here. And today, in recent years, you've had so much excellent children's literature coming out in terms of diversity, in terms of what subjects are being dealt with, as far as gender, as far as in terms of what's happening in Palestine, in terms of indigenous water protectors. I mean, there's so many subjects that are being covered in children's book form now.
Yeah, it's
that it really, really
great
is
selection.
Certainly
of
more
books
than
to talk about challenging
those many years ago when I was little. I can keep on going with the sections, young adults, in terms of your teens and tweens. health, education, medicine. I haven't even named all of the sections. Sports from a social political context. I haven't even named everything. So really, you just want to hopefully get here and have an opportunity to spend some time in the store. And I know many of your listeners are further away geographically. Again, we do mail within the U.S., so you certainly can purchase online at redemmas.org, and we mail. So I'm going to go back down to the free school classroom for the remainder of our discussion, but I did want you to have an opportunity to briefly see the store. You're, of course, very familiar with it, Stephanie, but I hope
Yes.
your viewers enjoyed that little walkthrough.
I think we should, and it's going to be a wonderful highlight from today's interview.
This is our free zine wall, which is very popular.
I can catch
All
you
right.
there browsing often. I love a good zine, by the way. Let's see. I'm on this side. That back up. Lab cam. Yeah. All right. We have you back. That was wonderful.
I hope.
That was a delight. And that's going to be a wonderful highlight to share from today's interview. While you couldn't hear me, but our audience could. And I was just letting folks know that if you ever catch me in Red Emma's, I'm either going to be in the front part of the cafe by the window, in front of the zine wall, or perusing the used book section.
Definitely. I just enjoyed talking with you. We could talk for hours on this, and I know that time is against us. I want to make sure that
Yeah, let's if you have time, if you have time, I have a few more minutes. So we're going to do the rapid fire question. I won't do as many as I usually do, but I think it's a fun way to get to know our interviewees a little bit more. So we're going to try to get through this as quickly as possible. Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
2 minutes on the clock. All right. If you could team up with any spoken word or slam artist, dead or alive, who would it be?
Wow. I get to team up with so many that are alive already. I get to team up with everybody from Simply Sherry to Black Chakra, Ephraim Nehemiah, Q Divine. So many I do get a chance to team up with. So just for rapid fire, somebody who unfortunately has recently gone on to the ancestors. I never had a chance to meet Andrea Gibson. She just passed on from ovarian cancer in July, very missed in the spoken word community. I would have enjoyed at least meeting her, even if we didn't do a project together. That would have been interesting. And you know who else just passed on is Malcolm Jamal Warner, who people remember from Cosby and that type of thing, but who was also a poet. So just to name those two. If I really could go back in history, God knows I would have loved to have met June Jordan.
Oh, speaking of her.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. I just found out that she had a potential almost editorial relationship with Toni Morrison. I also have a colleague out of Rutgers who is currently working on an extensive research project around her life as not only a radical poet, but community activist, and how she was prophetic and laid the blueprint for a lot of what we do today. Some of what we do you guys do at Red Emma's. But yeah, June Jordan, like, yes.
You had am I recalling correctly that the new book, Toni at Random, which looks at Toni as Toni Martin as a publisher. Did you interview that author?
Yeah, Dana A. Williams was our interview last Friday. Yep. And so hopefully I'll get some time. She's going to be at the festival, so hopefully we'll get some time to meet in person.
Yes, she will be. Yes, she will be.
All right, next question. Least favorite type of book genre? We'll limit it to fiction.
Which least favorite type of fiction? Ooh. I can't say is I deal with horror too much.
Okay, all right. For me, it's romance. I like horror, but for me, it's romance.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure I deal with. I'm not sure how much I deal with romance either. I like romance when it's a part of another story.
Literary fiction. Yes, yes, yes. Same
All
here.
right. But in terms of just out and out, I need something nice and romantic and sappy and whatever, however, you know, I probably don't do too that much. Here's the quick secret. I know we're this is supposed to rapid fire. The quick secret is that I stay way behind on fiction generally. Not because I don't enjoy it, that there's plenty I should have already read, much more so get to, but because I'm always getting the latest history of something or the latest essay on something and the latest nonfiction. That poor fiction gets the short end of the stick from me. It's just funny that way. And I know other people who are quite the opposite, so.
All right. So speaking of books, book in hand, audio, or e-reader?
Book in hand. I just finished this past week, speaking of fiction, a delightful, it's a young adult novel. But of course, the young adult genre is for adults also plenty of adult, even my own self,
Same here.
read it. But there's a piece called Cinderella is Dead. Cinderella is Dead by, I want to say her name correctly. I want to say Kalam Bayron. I'm going to check it because I don't want to mispronounce that.
And we'll link to all of the books mentioned in today's show when I write up the description. Okay, so we'll get that right in the write up.
It's a retelling of, it's a twist on the Cinderella story, and many years after Cinderella's death, the young women who have been oppressed for a long time under a patriarchal society, let's just say it's time to do something about it. I don't want to spoil the story, but it's interesting kind of fantasy spin on the Cinderella story that uplifts women and girls' action and auto-determination and what have you.
Okay. What's one thing you do for self-care that has nothing to do with books or literature?
I still, working out is still important, even though I've been behind in such in recent weeks and the past couple of months. But certainly that is still a part of my personal ethos and part of who I am. And so that in combination with plant-based eating and that type of thing, that for me is still a very important part of who I am and what I do. And I keep telling myself that I'm going to get past the arthritis and these old knees and return to the rec league and return to my soccer leagues and that type of thing.
And a good mode of exercise for folks dealing with the joint pains and hip pains and stuff. Swimming is awesome.
Well, as a matter of fact, the pool class, I never have been the greatest of swimmers in terms of honest to goodness swimming, but the pool exercise is very beneficial, I find.
It is. All right, last one. What was the last thing you read aloud or recited, and who was your audience?
That would have been, this is Friday, that would have been last Wednesday, the last time I actually was on the mic. Venues, I know we were supposed to talk about some venues in the area. As you know, and folk in the DMV area know, each of the Busboys and Poets locations will have mics. Simply Sherry, who is a dear person personally and in terms of poetry, she hosts a couple of things, one of which is that she hosts the second Wednesdays at the 450 K Street location in DC, general open mic. And I had an opportunity to speak there, to perform there. And I just remembered, that's not the last time I was on the mic. I was on the mic Monday at the Shirlington location. Down Westport, Shirlington. My dear friend Angelique Palmer was hosting that night. And so I did a couple of haiku. I have a couple of Palestine-related haiku. And then I did what is a fun little piece, what I call a little silly little flirtatious piece called Triple Dark Chocolate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's...
All right. So
I'll let the viewers guess as to where I was going with that. You know?
Well, look, we're gonna have to make sure we catch you on one of your quarterly open mic nights, perhaps get a little taste of that little dark chocolate there.
There you go. You want to hear that? You want to hear that piece at my event here, because we don't go there to that side of life. But there are plenty of other places where you might hear me say something like that.
All right. So to wrap it up, I wanted to give a plug for. Also speaking of open mics, Books and Bounty will be hosting their second open mic night at at the Chill Spot on 25th Street, and it is a old school pass the plate style, and the crowd winner gets to take the plate home. So I'll make sure you get a special invitation analysis to the next one.
That'll be wonderful. Notre Dame, of course, folks that go back in years in terms of spoken word in Baltimore. Of course, we remember fondly various events that happened.
Jackie used to host her own one. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And all the types of things.
Did you ever go to the open mic that was at Peace in a Cup of Joe?
There have been various ones. I used to go to all of them. Rebecca Dupont used to host Verbatim Mondays.
Yep.
Edith Poet MC and Slangston Hughes used to host the Art of Conversation, and Mark Avon Evans,
yes,
and the Big Little Band used to host Acoustic Thursdays there, and the aforementioned Simply Sherry used to host Her Through the Grapevine, which was a Love and Erotica open mic. So I used to go there. Sherry also hosts at Busboys Tacoma Park on fourth Fridays the Pajama Jammy Jam Slam. We'll be there tonight. It starts at 8. As a matter of fact, if you're in the area, come on out. It's a lot of fun. It's a 3-round Love and Erotica Slam. So again, if you're in the area, come to Busboys Tacoma Park tonight. There's so much. I just want to say before we wrap up, I thoroughly enjoyed talking with you. I hope the listeners have gotten something or another. There's so much to talk about. I've probably been all over the place. But definitely, as you alluded to earlier, continue to support all of the poetry in the area. We talked about the poetry party. There's certainly Maker's Mic, the open mic at Motor House on Thursdays. I forget which Thursday. Charm City Slam is the opportunity to hear some of the excellent, the best poets from around the country go head to head with each other in slams, and very often they have a short open mic. With that, we just talked about the Busboys Ports locations, and there's so many other things. And of course, I invite people to support mine. And in terms of Red Emma's, there's so much to say about it. But I really hope that even if you're way out of town, if you're ever in the area, please come to see us. We're closed Mondays, Tuesday through Saturday. The cafe will open at 9. Books will open at 10. We'll take last orders for food at 8. And books will close at 8. And then on Sundays, both sides from 10 to 4. But go to the events page, pick an event that you want to come to, or just make a day trip of it. Bring the laptop if you want to get some work done, have a lunch meeting, because it really is a very special space. We open by talking about some of my background, including ministry. And as people have said to me, and I would have to agree with them, I am not in active ministry in terms of what we usually think about with that phrase right now. But in a way, Red Emma is a secular institution. It's certainly not affiliated with any particular faith path. But in a way, this has become my ministry in recent years, in the past 10 years, because it is a ministry of providing critical, radical, going back to the Latin, the radix to root, fundamental, critical, radical left thought and information and solidarity and networking to people to deconstruct this oppressive society and to push back on it. So on behalf of the entire Red Emma's team, we really appreciate your offering your platform for us to share who we are and what we do. And as your bag there says, folk need to come so they can read a fucking book and tell other people to do the same.
Yes. And if you guys do
I
plan
didn't tell you my book when we went upstairs.
and if you guys will be
Forgot
at
to.
Red Emma's, let me know. Hit me up in the DM. I would love to meet up with y'all there. I'm always either between Red Emma's and Urban Reads. You can usually find me at one of those bookstores. So, Analysis, thank you so much. We'll be making sure all of the Reads recommendations and some of the hot open mic spots that Analysis mentioned for us today are linked and located in the highlights of the channel. So I'll be reaching out to you. Can we'll talk about it after the show. But feel free to just send a list over. I'll send what I have. Make sure you didn't get anything wrong. And we'll make sure anything that you may have missed or wanted to ensure got a shout out, mix it into the final highlight.
Appreciate you.
All right. Until next time, I'm sure I'll see you soon.
There you go.
All right. Bye. For all of our independent authors out there, Books and Bounty is a BCP affiliate, Black Classic Press affiliate. A lot of people don't know. A lot of people, especially if you're viewing today's show about Red Emma's, and you know about Black Classic Press, and it's radical frontless. It has one of the largest collections of works on Marcus Garvey and Garveyism. They've published the likes of Gwendolyn Brooks, Amiri Baraka, Walter Mosley, and more, and have nearly a 50-long year history of a Black legacy, a Black publishing legacy. But a lot of people don't know that this year they're celebrating their 30th anniversary of digital printing with BCP Digital Printing Services. And if you use my unique link by scanning that QR code either over there or at the bottom of your screen, then you can get 25 free books or a free media kit. Again, that's 25 free books or a free media kit on orders of 100 books or more. And the media kit includes a run of business cards, postcards, and a 12 by 18-inch poster. As always, everyone, again, if you want to know about anything on your screen, you can email me info@booksandbounty.com. If you want your business book advertised in the scrolling marquee that you see on the screen, again, that email address is info@booksandbounty.com. As always, happy writing and reading, everyone. See you next time.